Okay, welcome to class. We have an interesting discussion today as we talk a little bit more about the unifiers and Abraham Lincoln, and some other things that were going on before the war, and the things that led up to the war. And I think my first question would be, if we look at the unifiers, now who were the unifiers? Can anybody remember who they were? If you look at your notes, Jacoby.
Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, and John C. Calhoun.
Yes. So if we look at them, they're doing some things in the 30s and 40s that are keeping us from going to war for another 15, 20 years. And more like 15 years. So let me open up my notes here. Yes. So what kinds of things were going on? What was the spirit of the times at the time that they were living? This would be probably around the 1840s, 50s. Actually, there's even some in the 30s. What was the spirit of the whole colonies? I guess they weren't colonies, but the states at the time. What were some of the things going on? Do you remember, Hannah or Lily? Jacoby, there was slavery. And how did people feel about that? How did people feel about the slavery at the time? Yeah, Lily.
Some people thought it was good and some people thought it was bad.
Yeah, so you've got these two separate little armies, these two separate ideas here, kind of combating with each other, right? Yeah, and good. What are some other things that were going on?
In the 50s.
What's that, Hannah?
In the 1950s.
1850s. Even in the 1840s too. What was going on with trade between the North and the South? If you don't remember, just say, I don't remember, and then we can go on a little bit faster. Or if you can remember, just, hey, stick it in the chat box or just blurt it out. We have so few today. When we've got only 3 students, we really don't have to worry about raising hands. We can just answer. So, what was going on between the trade routes between North and South? What was going on? Do we remember? There was a tariff? What do you know about the tariff? Oh, good, Hannah. We'll get to that in a minute. Good memory. Does anybody remember? Thumbs up or thumbs down if you remember about the tariff situation. That was in another video this week. Thumbs up or thumbs down if you remember. Okay. So what was happening was the North was putting a tariff, which is it's a tax on the things that they were going to import. The cotton coming from the South so that they could make some clothing. They were making the clothing up in the North, but they were growing the cotton in the South. And the people who owned slaves would have their slaves put the cotton in a big ship, and they would ship it up north. But the North said, we're going to put a tax on everything that you ship up north that you're going to have to pay to be able to give us this stuff. Of course, the North is paying for the cotton, right? But they're also asking the South to pay a tariff, which is a tax. So that means the North doesn't have to pay as much for the cotton. Do you see? And that the taxes are going towards something else. Well, how do you suppose the South felt about that? What do you think? Just blurt it out. How would you feel if you were going to go and sell something to somebody and they said, okay, here's your money, but it's going to be a little less because I'm putting a tax on you bringing me stuff. Lily, thanks.
I was trying to find the right words, but I think like I would almost, I don't know, not like seek for vengeance, but like I'd be a little upset and feel betrayed.
Upset, betrayed. Good. Yes. So that's something that's causing a lot of rift between the North and the South as well. And the North is thinking, well, the South, hey, they're getting a lot of free labor. They don't have to pay anybody to work their land, maybe a few people, but they don't have to pay the slaves. So they should be able to pay this tariff. Well, the South didn't make it. That was really upsetting to them. So remember, the tariff was going on as well. That was interesting. Okay, let's go to the Dred Scott case. Hannah, say that 10 times really fast. Dred Scott case. It's kind of hard. Yeah, the Fugitive Slave Act, and the book Uncle Tom's Cabin was written, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and the John Brown Act. Good job. You've got some good notes there. So which one do we want to talk about first, do you think? Let's talk about the Dred Scott case. That is that I never ever understood until I was your age watching these videos. I don't know if it was ever explained very well when I was young and I was in history class. And by the way, I liked history, but a lot of it didn't sink in like it is now to me. So let's kind of remember what the Dred Scott case is. Who knows a few things about it? Give me a thumbs up if you know a few things about the Dred Scott case, and a thumbs down if you don't know anything about it. Thumbs up, thumbs sideways. Okay. All right. Lily, what things can you remember about the Dred Scott case?
I remember that it was a landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. And then it was something like, I wrote down one of the quotes, and it said, a Negro whose ancestors were imported into the U.S. and sold as slaves. And I remember that.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. And it was a Supreme Court case, and it was a huge turning point that that started making the North really recognize that there's some problems. So here is Dred Scott. He is a slave. His master's really nice to him, really is. And the master moves to a different state that's a free state now. But Dred Scott is working with him still. And then the master dies. And then the widow is still alive, the wife of the master. And Dred Scott realizes, I'm in a free state. I think I'm going to take this to court and be freed from this family because I'm in a free state. So he takes it to court, and it goes to the Supreme Court, because when you take something to court, you usually go to one of the lower courts, and if you don't pass, you can go to a higher one. So if you go to a community court, a city court, and it doesn't pass, you can actually take it to a district court, which is your county. And if it doesn't pass in the county, you can go to the state court. And if it doesn't pass in the state court, you can take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it was taken to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, the judges said, well, he can't even really have a court because he's not a citizen of the nation. See, I mean, in the Constitution, it says that a black person is only 3/4 of a citizen. They're not a full citizen, so can't even go to court. So that means he had no legal protection, so no court could protect him. He absolutely had no court rights. Whoa, that means he had no real freedoms whatsoever, no matter what state he was in. Okay, take a few minutes to write down some of the key issues that I just said in your notes, so you know that. Okay, and I'm just going to give you let's take 4 minutes, and so at 8:50 we'll start again. So take some notes and write down some of the things that you just remember.
Did you ask a question?
Oh, I asked if you would now take a few minutes and write down as many notes as you can about the Dred Scott case in your notes of what I had just said. Okay, about 2 more minutes. Write down as many details as you can think of. Hi, Mom.
She says hi. When does class end?
9:30. Okay, about 30 more seconds.
Can we have a few more minutes? I had to go downstairs and put books away. Or
Okay.
can I have a few more minutes?
Sure. How about a minute and a half? Is that okay? For those of you who are done writing your notes, just think about how you would feel if you were Dred Scott in that moment. And then also put yourself in the shoes of the judges and what they're thinking. Maybe even the widow. What is she thinking? Okay, Hannah, about 30 more seconds. Looks like, Hannah, you're done. Okay, she just texted me her notes. Cool. Okay, so the thing is the reason why I had you write these notes is I want each of you to tell each other a little bit more about the Dred Scott case. And so what I'm going to do, oh, what happened to Hannah? I was going to put us in rooms so that there's just 2 people in each room. That's kind of funny. We just lost her. I guess we won't do that. So then what I want to do then, let me see if she's coming down. We've got some problems with computers. Hannah, what happened? Oh, are you going to?
No, I'm just going to sit and listen.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to put us in breakout rooms.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you maybe log in on Kathy's?
But why would we need breakout rooms or something?
Well, I wanted you to each tell the story so you could understand the Dred Scott case really well.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay. All right, so she'll get on. Think about the Dred Scott case while she's getting on.
Well, what's Kathy's password?
No, you just sign in as guest. Okay. Sorry about this. She'll be on. Let's go on to something else while we're waiting for her. Hannah had written a bunch of things in here. Oh, don't push that button, Hannah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't know it was a button.
Yeah, and there's one that it says some bad words in it. So, okay. So let's talk about the Fugitive Slave Act. Who knows a little bit by thumbs up or thumbs down about the Fugitive Slave Act? I'm just looking for my notes here. Oh, okay, there it is. It's in 1850. Does anybody else know a little bit about the Fugitive Slave Act? Thumbs up or thumbs down, or thumbs sideways? Downs, okay. What about you, Lily? Lily is frozen. Oh, there she is. Okay, awesome. Okay, Lily, what kinds of things do you know about the Fugitive Slave Act?
Well, I know that it was passed by the U.S. Congress, and part of the compromise was slaveholding interests and free soilers. And I'm not sure. I'm trying to look at my stuff that I wrote down on my phone.
Okay. So
I know that it was nicknamed the Bloodhound Law for the dogs that were used to track down runaway slaves.
Okay, yes. So it has a lot to do with runaway slaves. So let's say you and I are slaves, and we decide we're going to run away to a free state. Okay, so we're going to, make a boat, a raft in our free time and hide it. And then some night we slip out, we take the raft and we go across the big river and we get into, let's say, Iowa, which was a free state, I think. And we're there. We are in a free state now. And people could tell that there was a big problem. The leaders could tell that there was a big problem losing these slaves. And so they did go to Congress, like you said, Lily. And these three men came up with the three men that you had said, you talked about, Jacoby. They decided to do this great compromise in 1850. Hannah, are you getting on?
I have to download Zoom.
Oh, she's having to download Zoom. That's a problem coming here. Maybe we should have had you start here. Anyway, they decided, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to pass this law that says, hey, if a slave has escaped from somebody and gone to a free state, then everybody in that free state needs to find that slave and return him or her to her master. Okay? Well, there were people who felt bad for these slaves, and they started something to help them to even get more free, to even get into Canada, where there was no Fugitive Slave Act because it was a different country. Does anybody know this special help, the name of this special help that people subscribed to, that they started? There's a special name for it. Yes, Jacoby.
Is it like the Underground Railroad or something?
Oh, all right. Why don't you come here and we won't do the breakout rooms. Let's see, Hannah. Let's go to this couch. So we're not able to get her onto this computer, but we'll put her here so that she can be part of it. Okay, Hannah. You want to be on this side? Okay. All right. So, yes, it was the Underground Railroad. What do you know about the Underground Railroad? Anybody?
It was helped to take.
Oh, you want it?
Do you want it?
Well, I don't want it to be right here. Okay.
It was helped to take slaves underground to, like, Kansas if they were, because that was a free state, and they'd have to move 2 states that were free to be free.
Okay. So, was it underground?
No.
No. Why do they call it underground if it's not underground?
Because it was covered. No one knew.
Because no one knew about it. So it was like it was hidden. Go ahead. Were you raising your hand, Lily? Or you would just, okay, what do you want to add?
I was gonna say that it is just like hidden from other people. But I also want to add that there's other routes that went to Mexico or overseas. And so I thought that was kind of crazy.
Yes. So if they could even get out of the country, then they were free. And who knows? Who knows what happened to them once they got to Canada or Mexico or in another country. But I know many found happiness and married and had children, and it was a good thing. Okay, good. So Hannah also talked about Uncle Tom's Cabin. And that brings me to the point that we're going to be able to talk about that next Thursday. Do you remember? Isn't that right? Let me just make sure.
It was this Thursday.
No, it's next.
Recording?
I am recording. So let me just check. And I don't see anybody, but if you know for sure, just blurt out if it's next week. I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it's next week.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to check for sure then. If you know it is next week, then let me know, but it takes a little while for me to find it.
Put command.
Yep, on the 21st of March. So it's right before spring break. That's what I thought. All right. So let's not talk very much about that one right now. But let's understand what go ahead, Lily.
I don't think I might be here next week, but I'm not sure if I am because I have a competition.
Okay.
Is it the 21st or is it the 22nd, Mom?
It's the 21st.
That's a Wednesday.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, the 21st is a Wednesday, so it is the 22nd that we will be talking about it. Sorry, you're supposed to have it done, being read on Wednesday. Whew.
Yeah, I have a competition on Friday, and so usually I leave on Thursday, but I'm not sure if we're going to leave early Friday or Thursday yet.
Okay, and since our class is early Thursday morning, you probably will make it, I think. Okay, let's just keep it that way, and just let me know. And if you will miss it, maybe we can change our class because we'd love to have you there. Okay, let's talk about the Kansas-Nebraska Act a little bit. What do you know about it?
It took out lots of other treaties.
It took out another treaty.
Lots of other treaties.
Okay. It overturned the
Yeah.
Missouri Compromise, didn't it? Yeah. Does anybody remember what the Missouri Compromise was?
Oh.
I know. So maybe you ought to not.
I didn't even notice them.
Okay. I've got my notes up here. Do you have your notebook with you?
No.
Okay. Yes, Lily.
It was it allowed people in the territories of Kansas and Nebraska to decide for themselves whether or not to allow slavery within their borders.
Right. And so the Missouri Compromise was that anytime a new state was coming in, one would, if they were below a certain line on the longitude line, I think, or is it a latitude? One of those, the 63rd parallel or something like that. If it was below that, it would have to be a slave state. If it was above, it would be a free state. Well, the Kansas-Nebraska Act overturned that and said, no.
She's singing.
Let's decide for ourselves if we're going to be a free state or a slave state. Yeah. Okay, so what might be the problem with that?
All the slaves will go to the free state.
Possibly. But what would happen was that leaders from other states would go, oh, we got to go to this state and campaign and talk about making sure that it stays slave. And the ones from the north would come in and, no, we got to campaign and talk to the people about them making it a free state. And you had a lot of politics going on. You know what it's like when we have an election for a president. Your parents are watching the video, are watching TV. Everybody's going to caucuses and, trying to talk about who they're going to vote for. Well, it was the same thing in the new states. You had so much political discussion and chaos that it was a problem. And it caused a big mess. So things were getting ugly. Okay, good. Okay, now we have some other things we could talk about, but what I want to do is I want to go to you and your notes and see if there was something that was fascinating to you that you would like to talk about. That we've just been talking mainly about Tuesday's video that you listened to. And on Mondays, there's a lot about the 3 unifiers. And yesterday, there was a lot about Abraham Lincoln, a lot about him. And then today's video was about Abraham Lincoln's presidencies. And this brings us to right before the war starts. So Hannah, is there something you would like to talk about that you can think of? Maybe something you want to know more?
The John Brown Act was interesting.
You want to talk about that? Okay.
I just watched that video today because I haven't watched the other videos.
Okay. While you're all looking for some, let's talk about, Hannah wants to go to the John Brown. Do you know much about the John Brown that you could tell?
So he would help armor slaves so that they could leave their masters.
And how did he do it? In what way?
By force. Like, take over their masters by force.
Yeah. And he was rather evil about it.
Yeah.
So he felt like you just needed to kill all of the masters of the slaves.
Yeah.
And that was the only way we were going to fix this whole problem. Let's talk about the problem with that. What's the problem with that?
There were more masters that could go against them, and then they would be thrown down, and then
Can you hear what she's saying?
lots of problems would happen with the...
They can't hear. Why don't you start over?
Okay. Lots of problems would happen with the...
And there's somebody in here taking a shower and she's singing. But let's just kind of ignore it and just kind of go on.
What was I saying?
John Brown, you were talking about the masters. You were talking about how he would.
Oh, yeah. So they would, like, everything about John Brown that I just said.
Let's talk about everything that you can think of, but what's the problem
So
with
he
what?
would take them, his masters by force, but the problem with that is that
All right.
let me think on a sec. The problem with that is that the masters would go against them, and then there would be like war between the states, which also happened.
Yeah. Does war fix things?
No, well, kind of.
It destroys things. It destroys so much that you can't keep going on anymore. So in a sense, it doesn't fix it. It just pretty much destroys. It's like cancer. It's like chemotherapy. Has anybody ever heard that word chemotherapy? Okay, let's sit in a way that we're not moving the couch on much because it moves this. No, that's okay. So chemotherapy actually does something. It not only kills cancer, but it kills all your DNA. It just destroys DNA in every cell of your body. So usually when people take chemotherapy, there's a high percentage of people who will die. Maybe not even from the cancer, but because of the chemotherapy. It's not a very good way to deal with cancer. And they're starting to realize that now. In some test studies now, what they're doing is they're putting polio, which is a very devastating disease, they're putting polio into cancer cells. And the polio is allowing the body to kill the cancer cells. And that's a much better way because it's not destroying all the DNA in every cell. It's just destroying the DNA in the cancer cells. So we know that chemotherapy is not the best way anymore. But John Brown was like a chemotherapy. So he was not only destroying some of the masters, but he was destroying everybody in his way, it seemed like. And war is that way. It just destroys. And then pretty soon nobody can fight anymore. So you have to figure out a better way to deal with it, right? So that was the problem with John Brown. Some people thought he was a hero, and some people thought he was evil. Okay, thanks for bringing that up, Hannah. Okay, somebody else want to look at your notes and talk about something that you thought was interesting or that you might have questions about? Look over your notes for a bit and see if there's something there. Oh, Jacoby, you put in the chat box. You liked how Abraham Lincoln was honest. Good. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Honest Abe.
Uh-huh. will you come on and talk about some of the things that you liked about that, and maybe what led up to him being honest, and maybe some of his stories?
I liked how he was honest because, like, some of the other presidencies probably weren't as honest, and he made sure that he was honest in everything. And I feel like we could be like that, like Abraham Lincoln, to be honest, like him.
Yeah. Do you remember some of the stories that are told about him when he was honest? Maybe not, you don't have to remember all the details, but do you remember some of the stories?
Not really. I was really tired because I went to the temple yesterday morning, so it was hard to think yesterday.
It was a Wednesday. That's awesome. Okay, anybody else remember one of the stories of when he was being honest? Do you remember he had a store, he had a business with somebody? Yes. And he had to borrow money to start that store, didn't he? He had to borrow money and he was planning on paying it back. Well, what does anybody remember some of the details?
Is that in a later video?
Oh, let me see if it is. I'll look at mine.
Oh, that said Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, it would be in his Wednesday video. You haven't watched it yet?
No.
Okay.
I just watched the second one and then you told me it was time for class. So
okay.
I will watch it later.
Okay, good. So I'm sorry.
What about the money?
So he was $1,100 in debt. He had to pay somebody $1,100. That's $1,100. And he intended to pay it with the profits from his business, right? Well, there was a co-owner with him. Does anybody remember what the co-owner did? This was in yesterday's video. Jacoby, do you remember by any chance what the co-owner did?
He ran away with all of the money.
Yes, he was very dishonest. And Lincoln stayed on. He still had products that he could sell. He stayed on and he worked really hard. And he earned the money to pay off the debt. And he never sacrificed justice. He just knew he would have to pay. That is amazing. He just stayed on and just kept working. Amazing. Good. Thank you so much, Jacoby, and she'll be back in a minute. So, okay, for you, Lily, what comes to mind that you'd like to talk about?
I don't know, because I want to talk about like the slavery and all that stuff, but that stuff's already been talked about.
Okay, well, then we did talk about what you wanted to talk about. That's cool. Well, and with fewer students, there's little less to talk about. So what we might want to do is we might want to just end class early today, looks like about 12 minutes early, and gives you a little bit of time to watch those videos and be filled with
videos.
Well, more knowledge,
yeah.
Armed with more knowledge. And then you can also work on your Uncle Tom's Cabin that we'll finish reading this week and discuss that. So with that, and I'll wait until Jacoby gets back. Oh, Jacoby, we decided that we're going to end just with fewer people. There's less to talk about, but I think we've had a really good discussion, and I think we're going to remember what's happened with Dred Scott, John Brown, and some of those other things that caused the war. That when we're doing wrong things, whether to our siblings, to our parents, there will be destruction. We will be bringing upon ourselves destruction. And that's, I think, the message that I want to leave today Well, maybe the message is when we're out serving and being honest, we lift up the world. When we're feeling lousy, tired, and upset, we can change and we can bring light to the world. And that maybe is a better message to leave on. So with that, we'll end. And everyone work hard, read that book, and we'll get to the end of it and we'll discuss it. It's a really amazing ending. It's hard, but it's an amazing ending. Sad, but amazing what Uncle Tom feels in his soul. It's a wonderful, wonderful message. Okay. Have a good day, everybody. See you later.